first of all สวัสดีค่ะคุณ Mario Singh
ครับ
So welcome to Voice of the Nations. Nice to see you and welcome to Thailand as well.
Thank you.
Could you please tell me for this time you're visiting Thailand for on what purpose?
Yeah, so I've got a few things to do here in Thailand. Number one is to meet up with my staff, my clients, my partners, and specifically is to also speak inside an industry conference.
For this time, right?
Yes, that's right.
Are you also going to be a guest speaker?
Yes, in fact, I just finished it yesterday. This was a topic that they kind of brought together some of the industry experts to listen to some of our insights, like how do we see post-pandemic, what's going to happen, how will business bounce back. Yeah, so I quite enjoyed the session.
Right, since you are the guest speaker of this event, I would like to ask you, since you are my guest today, how is the situations of the world's financials and economics right now? How is it doing?
Yeah, so this is the one big keyword that everybody is all panicking. The big keyword is the word inflation.
Inflation,
right?
yes.
And the main reason is because, like in the last couple of years, there was so much central banks that's pumping money into the system that's causing all this artificial money that's floating around in the financial market. So the primary reason why there's so much inflation is because when the governments were trying to deal with the pandemic, they were flushing all this money into the system to prop up their economies. Even in Thailand, the way we are seeing it, right, that inflation is about 8%, coming close to 8%. And that's not too good. Why? Simply because when there's high inflation, it erodes the disposable income of all the people in that country. So I think this is the one key problem, Nina. Not just in Thailand or in Singapore and Malaysia, it's absolutely around the world, even in the US, and they are the ones that's starting to deal with the inflation by trying to raise their interest rates.
So do you think that from now on, what should we do in terms of for the investors to look at the let's say economic market right now?
Okay, now that's a great question.
Especially after the COVID-19 pandemic as well?
Sure. So here's something I keep telling everyone. As an educator, I feel the most important thing is to educate yourself, because if you do nothing about it, your disposable income will tend to be eroded away, right? Because inflation is just so high, and it doesn't look it's gonna disappear anytime soon. So my first point to whether it's traders or investors, please go and get yourselves educated, because if you don't educate yourself on certain trading and investing principles, then you are, number one, either going to end up with not enough money, or number two, worse still, you're going to end up falling into all the different investment scams. So I think the first key thing is to ensure that you get yourselves invested in yourselves, understanding trading principles, trading strategies, investing principles.
And also, do you think that what are the main factors that we should watch out or be careful at this situation right now?
Meaning in Thailand or globally?
Globally.
Yeah, so here's the key thing that most people who are invested in markets are looking at is the word recession. And that's not a good word that everyone is looking at, right? And here's the reason why. Because inflation is so high, many central banks, whether it's Thailand or the US again, they have to start increasing interest rates. This is a key point, because central banks, one of their tools is they've got to raise interest rates for them to combat inflation, right? And it has two effects for that. Number one, it is to draw the money back into the banks to ensure that people are not spending and overheating the economy, right? Because when you think about it, when you're raising interest rates, more people will end up saving because the rates are higher. That's point one. And point number two, it actually has the effect of many businessmen, entrepreneurs, they will not be borrowing the money too much, because when you borrow money at a higher interest rate, it's a bit more painful.
Right.
So these two factors, if you add them together, it has an effect of actually putting the economy downwards. And I think this is something that all governments have got to look at to ensure that no economy gets into recession.
What about Thailand? How do you see the situation in Thailand?
I think Thailand is fairly similar. I'm not sure if Thailand is going to go into a recession, but here's one of the key things. I know for a fact that the central bank just raised their interest rates, I think by 25 basis points last month. Now, whether is it enough, I'm not so sure, because the inflation in Thailand, right, which is I think coming close to 8%, the central bank has got to do more with it, right? So this is one end of it. This is what I call the macro view. But more pertinent, I like to talk about the micro view. And when I say the micro view, that means everyone who's listening to the interview now, what are some of the tools that they can do immediately? No one wants to just wait for a recession to come and then just give up and surrender. No, you've got to learn how to deal with the recession, because here's the interesting part, Nina. More millionaires are actually created in a downturn, in a recession. But how do they do that?
How do they keep up with that?
How do they keep up with that, right? Either number one, there's two ways to do it. Number one, you're either selling assets on the way down, making a profit. This is what you call a short trade, right? Which many people are doing around the world. And point number two is to actually buy up cheap assets, because when prices are plunging and going down, this is the time where most entrepreneurs or big bosses are buying things on the cheap and then waiting for the rise.
For the right time.
These are the two main things that people have got to take action even in a downturn. It doesn't mean that because it's a recession or a downturn that people are going to get poorer. No. All right, it's got everything to do with the mindset.
Well, since you mentioned about this, I would like to ask, what are the, let's say, let's take a few examples of investments or type of business that as investors or people who are watching this program right now should look into it.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one classic example, right? Because many people are asking me, Mario, oh, there's currencies, there's stocks, there's crypto all around the world.
Yes.
What should we be looking at? Because it seems that everything is melting down. Well, let's take a step back. It is not melting down. Yes, we all know we are all in something called a crypto winter, because many people have invested in crypto and the crypto market is dropping down. But one key thing I'm sharing with everyone, take advantage of the rising interest rates of the US dollar. You see, the Federal Reserve has given us so many clues that they will continue to raise interest rates all throughout this year. And when the central bank of the US raises interest rates, it has the effect of strengthening the US dollar. So one good trade or one good investment to definitely look at would be to be on the same uptrend as the US dollar.
Well, can I say, for example, investing in cryptocurrency right now, is it a risk as well? Should I look for another type of investment? Or should I go back to the classic type of investment like stocks, golds?
So in the one of the safer ones would be to obviously follow the trend of the US dollar, right? Because as we mentioned, the US dollar will continue to strengthen. So that's more in what I would term as a in the currency market, as an example. But if someone were to ask me, Mario, what about the stock market? What am I looking at in the stock market, right? Then for stocks, you need to be looking at something specific that can benefit from rising inflation. So as an example, what are some of the companies or some of the different sectors that will benefit from rising inflation? Number one, oil companies. Oil companies benefit from rising inflation, so people can actually be looking at that. Number two, what I would term as defensive stocks. So stocks that are in the utilities, or even banking stocks, or even energy stocks, right? These are things people can look at. But again, beyond all these things, I keep emphasizing, it's not so much about what should I invest at this point of time, because there are opportunities abounding everywhere. I want people to take a step back and understand the biggest investment that they can make is not really in the currency market or the stock market or the crypto market. The biggest investment is in themselves, right? And how do you do that? Well, understand two things. Fundamental analysis, which is the macro view of how the world is growing. And number two, technical analysis. Okay, because fundamentals tells you the direction, and technicals tell you the exact entry points and exit points.
And also they have to look at what are the areas they are actually good at. Because if someone doesn't have, as you mentioned before at the beginning, if someone doesn't have any knowledge about, let's say, stocks or any other type of investment, then that's a risk.
Absolutely, 100% correct. Many people, they tend to chase the money. And I've got this famous saying that I want to tell people, stop chasing the money, chase the right mentor. Because when you chase the right mentor and learn and grow, money will start chasing you. So that's the important part, because many people are just so drawn into their greed and hope. And to some extent, that is the human nature, right? If someone tells you, oh, I can make you big money, I can make you big money, and you're chasing that without understanding, is that even possible? That's how many people tend to fall down.
Then, according to you, what is the overall picture of the real business? Do you think that the real businesses would actually bounce back after the pandemic and, like with what's going on in the world right now,
Yes.
the war and energy prices,
Yes.
and even the inflations that you mentioned about that.
Yeah.
How do you see this?
Good question. I think specifically, number one, we've got to look at, so let's just say if you talk about Thailand specifically, right? Thailand is an export-oriented economy. Much of Thailand's economy is on exports, is on tourism. And the two biggest export partners for Thailand are the US and China. And they've got many problems themselves, okay? So these are things, the businesses in Thailand have got to understand what are some of the factors that are actually affecting the US market or even the China market, number one. So again, understanding the macro climate is important. Number two, many businesses and entrepreneurs, they must understand how to pace and how to pivot. Let me quickly explain what that means. What do I mean by how to pace and how to pivot? You see, if now we are rebuilding, because everyone is coming out of the pandemic, you've got to learn how to pace, okay? Do you need to add more staff? How are you going to take advantage of the bounce back? Number two, if your business has crashed, don't just sit there and cry about it. How can you start pivoting to an online model? How can you start pivoting certain sectors of your market to ensure that you're rebuilding the business? So for all the business owners, entrepreneurs out there, whether it's in Thailand or anywhere in the world, number one, learn how to pace. And number two, learn how to pivot.
What about Singapore? How did Singapore do in terms of coping with the pandemic and now, like gathering things up together and keep moving forward?
Sure. So I think Singapore has, it's a very interesting model. Singaporeans, right? There's this one word we have in Singapore that everybody understands. It's called the word kiasu. Now, what does kiasu mean, right? So kiasu basically means that you are someone who is very, very conservative. Singaporeans tend to over-plan. Yeah, so by being kiasu, even as the government, they want to make sure that everyone is safe, and they're doing that for a good reason. So Singapore has actually been one of those that have shut their borders, that have to ensure everyone is wearing masks for the longest time. But that's still good because I think they've controlled it well. Having said that, what is now Singapore trying to do? So Singapore has already opened up its borders. We are a very open economy in Singapore. If Singapore shuts down its economy for too long, it cannot afford it, it will die. It's not like China. China is still a country, that has, till today, is still shutting down all its borders, but they can because they've got 1 billion people in their domestic economy that can feed that. We can't. In Singapore, it's difficult to do that. So Singapore is an open economy, and I'm excited for the next 1 year because Singapore's borders are already fully open.
So would you mean that each country will have to adapt each models that are actually suitable of the nature of that country?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So as an example again, so if you look at Thailand, right? Thailand is an export-oriented economy. And Thailand needs to look at, okay, how do I increase tourism? How do I increase exports? Because these two drivers of GDP contribute the most into Thailand's economy. So Thailand has got to look at, as an example, okay, how do I export more to the bigger countries, to US, to China, even though they are having those problems? Because US is fighting inflation, China is fighting their supply chain problems, and there are many businesses in China who are actually also based in Thailand. So many of them have got to tailor-make their recovery plans in accordance to what's happening out there.
As for Thailand, do you think what are the potential opportunities in terms of investment in Thailand for expats and also internally, locally for us as well?
Well, I think there are abundant opportunities, So I tend to look at two things, right? Either number one, whether it's about setting up a business here, a specific business, or whether is it about a portfolio management? About whether once you have invested in your mind, how then can you use that intellectual capital for you to be trading and investing in the financial market? So I think these two things I'm personally excited about the Thai economy.
You're excited about the Thai economy? Why?
I'm excited for one reason, all right? So when I look at it, so if you look at, say, the Thai currency rate right now, it's one of the lowest in so many years. I think it's touching 37, right? From $1 is between 36, 37 baht. And people are saying, oh man, how in the world am I going to come out of this? Because for Thailand specifically, the household debt, I think, is also fairly high. I was reading some news that, as an example, each household has a debt of about 500,000 baht. Now that's not good news, all right? But from this, I always say there's always a silver lining. There's always a silver lining. People need to learn how to change. you can't expect the government to be doing so much for you. But in this economy, in Thailand, which is one of the biggest economies in Southeast Asia, right? People have got to understand the investing principles and the business mechanics. And with that, like I keep saying, this one sentence, more millionaires have been minted during a recession. Thailand might go into a recession, all right, in the next few months, but with that comes opportunities. Okay, so I don't want anyone to give up. These are the realities of life out there, but it's important to keep yourself insulated with these investing and trading principles.
How do you forecast? I mean, now we are at the last quarter
Yes.
of the year. How do you forecast from now on until maybe at the end of the year or actually the first quarter of the year?
To forecast in terms of globally?
In terms of globally trading, investments as well. And also, I would
Sure.
like you to touch a little bit about ASEAN, since like
Touch on, sorry. Which one?
in ASEAN.
In ASEAN.
Since you come from Singapore and
Yeah.
I come from Thailand.
Yeah. Okay, so globally, here's the big issues that everyone is struggling with, okay? Number one is that tension between US and China, all right? Because US and China are technically the biggest economies in the world. So everyone has got to be watching what happens in US and China, right? There's a saying that goes, right, when US and China sneezes, the entire world catches a cold, and it's true because they're so interconnected to the entire world,
Right.
Thailand included. So number one, look at that. Number two is the ongoing fight between Russia and Ukraine. Why is that important for us all to understand? It's because Russia and Ukraine, they produce a lot of agricultural commodities for the entire world. And when they do that, and if the fighting is going on, if supply chains are being affected, then technically it will contribute to the problem of rising inflation here. Now, so this is the backdrop that we must understand before we go into decision making. So with this as the backdrop, right, what then are the silver linings? Well, the silver lining is asset prices will tend to drop. So when asset prices are dropping, it is important for businesses in Thailand or around ASEAN to revamp your entire business model to say, look, how then do I use this time, even if business is slowing down? Don't give up. Think of how to reinvent your entire business, improve your infrastructure, invest in people, upgrade your IT systems so that when the curve turns, you are there to sweep and take advantage of the recovery.
What about ASEAN?
Man, I love ASEAN, Marina. So many people keep saying, right, oh, China is the biggest economy, this, that, and the other. I fully agree. But here's a secret that really not many people know. ASEAN is a place of 680 million people. So Thailand is about 10% of the entire ASEAN. Everybody in ASEAN, whether you're a business owner or an upcoming entrepreneur, you need to understand one thing. If you're based in Thailand, don't just think that my business is only limited to the 70 million people in Thailand. No, ASEAN is your entire playground. The whole of ASEAN, 680 million people. Indonesia, which has the largest economy in the whole of ASEAN, $1 trillion US. Think of how you can expand your business regionally throughout ASEAN. It will pay you dividends many times over.
And also, we are quite diverse, especially like Thailand and Singapore. Thailand is one of the, Singapore is a hub
Yes.
of trading investment economy as well. And Thailand also, a lot of expats come here for investments.
That's
We
right.
are quite diverse on this, but do you think that ASEAN, we have to act as a one as well? Like the EU.
Yeah.
Should we have a single policy as well on this in terms of trading and investments?
I think it's a great question. I don't think it's going to be easy to do, Nina.
Right.
Here's the reason why, okay? So EU has been fairly successful in that because number one, I feel most of them are able to speak the same kind of language. In ASEAN, it's going to be very difficult to do that because we are all speaking different languages, right? In Thailand, everyone is speaking Thai. Vietnam, everyone is speaking Vietnamese. Indonesia, everyone is speaking Bahasa Melayu. So I think conquering the local culture is important before it even becomes one. That's the first point.
Right.
Number two, we are all managing different treasuries, right? Every different government is issuing different government bonds. So until those two factors can happen, is there going to be a unified treasury for all the governments? And until we can have a local language, then there might be a possibility the whole of ASEAN can become one. But having said that, until that day happens, you should still be looking at ASEAN as your regional playground rather than just a single country.
And work together.
Absolutely work together.
Okay, let's talk about the book first. The first one is?
So the first one is basically, yes, that white one, Unlocking the World's Largest Financial Secret. So this is a basic book I wrote. Essentially, I call it 12 Keys to Financial Freedom, right? So people have got to understand what are the basic keys you need to know before you even enter in the investing world. So that's the first one I wrote, fairly easy read. The second one I wrote, which is the last book on your lap, I called it, so this is a bit more technical, Nina. This is 17 trading strategies. So it goes deeper into how you actually make money in the financial markets. And then the golden one is I actually spent time to interview 12 top investment professionals around the world. Yes. Collectively, Nina, they actually manage $6 billion among all of them. And I thought, besides my wisdom, I wanted to ensure how to give people the best chance for success. Because my way may not be the best way. I might be able to mentor some people, but my style may not be suited to everyone.
Exactly.
Right? So I've got 12 different professionals here, including one of the top investment professionals in Thailand itself. All right, so it's written right here. And the final book I have.
This one is actually, I think it's my favorite because.
Your favorite? Because of the color.
It's for beginners who would like to,
in a sense, yes,
to start.
Yes.
In terms of looking for what should I invest,
right,
where should I start first.
Yes, absolutely.
And what should I do?
So this book, right? Well, I mean, I would recommend, in fact, all of it. But this particular book hit #1 on Amazon, and it's because I touched on what I term as the 3 pillars of success: personal success, financial success, and business success. And I think it struck a chord with many people, especially now during the pandemic. People actually want to understand, how do I achieve success in all these 3 pillars?
And the question is, what would be your advice for investors in, let's say, another 12 months from now on? Okay,
I'm actually going to answer, because I had a session with people just now, and what I said in 3 words, Nina, really struck a chord with them.
3 rules?
I don't even think it's here, so I'm going to share this, right? And the answer is this: begin tomorrow, today. Begin tomorrow, today. Now, what that means is, everybody has hopes for the future.
Of course.
Everybody knows that, okay, I want to create something magical tomorrow. But instead of waiting for that day to come, imagine yourself already having that lifestyle, already having that education, already having that skill set, and then asking yourself, how can I embody the beliefs and the values of myself tomorrow, today? And I think that one advice can help so many people. Instead of waiting for that day, begin your transformation now. Because you know what you want for the future. You know what you want in terms of hope and dreams. Begin that today.
Okay, but first, study what you want to do. Then, start it right away.
And embody the values and beliefs of your successful future self today.
Exactly. And also, you have to prepare for the risk as well, because every investment have risk.
Yes, and the way and thank you for reminding on that. You see, the problem with most people, again, they tend to look at how much money they can make without understanding how much money I can lose. Right? Now, both are important, don't get me wrong. It's just that most people are always just so focused on how much money I can make without understanding the risk. So it's 2 sides of the same coin. You need to understand your reward, and you need to also understand your risk. Once you understand both of that, then make a decision.
If you know how to work and will balance it, and then start it right now. So if you are interested, you can go and have a look at these 4 books from Mario Singh. We can also find this on Amazon. Yep,
you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on my website, mariosingh.com. All the resources are over there.
And of course, you have your page as well.
I do. It's in my page I'm everywhere, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Yeah, I think it's fairly easy to find me. You can find all of that on my website, mariosingh.com.
This is another little tips of how to reach out to your fans.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for today, thank you very much,
Thank
Mario.
you. Thank you, Nina, for having me.
Thank you, and have a very pleasant stay while you're in Thailand.
Thank you so much.
And thank
you.
you for being here.
Thank you.
And that's all for Voice of the Nations for today. Stay tuned with us from Monday to Friday from 8 to 8:30 p.m. Or you can watch a rerun on our Facebook fan page Nation Thailand and on our website nationthailand.com. For today, me, Nina, Nirasha Marisaklami, and Kun Mario Singh will say goodbye to you. Okay, have a great evening. สวัสดีค่ะ